For you, bro. Peace and Black Power family. What's your name? Where you calling from?
What up? This is Yasha Business Real.
Oh, shit. Road runner in the building. What's going on, Yasha?
We just can play a good game like men and play it right.
What's up, Yasha?
You know, Garfield talked about that. He harped on the Babylonian, what we call the Babylonian captivity. He harped on that, and he said those people were the real Israelites, and that's basically where he was standing at. Okay, but the problem with that is when you look at the Babylonian and Assyrian reliefs. Okay, when you look at them, the chiefs of Lachish, and you can see them in the golden age of the Moors and the African origins of civilization. In those books, you'll see the Battle of Lachish. You'll see that the Israelites depicted on there were a black people. Okay,
well, brother, that's not a good look right now.
You don't talk about
because you had an opportunity to challenge him on that, but now you're calling in. That don't look right. He didn't talk about the Persian captivity, which came much after that. He made Babylonian captivity, and the Bible itself even continues on much further than that. So this whole thing about these white Jews, and they started out white Pharisees and stuff like that, what he failed to realize is that the J1, the J2, the RB1, and all are subclass of the EV38 haplogroups, and those are none other than the small branches of the E1B1A group. Do you have a question?
They're the E1B1A groups, and they all are in Africa today.
Do you have a question?
Yeah. So how when you my question is, how do the saga stops right there in Babylon when Jewish DNA is fluttered all throughout Africa and pretty much all throughout Western Africa?
Good question, Garfield.
Look at here. This is why I say that the E1B1A and the E1B1B is the paternal groups to the R1B and the J1 and the J2 groups. Even though all of these are different haplogroups, all right, when you talk about the parent, I'm talking about the stalk, the host, the person, inside of the Jewish person, you understand that even though he has the R1B marker or the J1 or J2 marker, he also carries the E1B1B or the E1B1A marker in him. And that is the one marker that they all carry. They carry all of them. Even the European Jew carry this marker at 20%. When it says that they carry it at 20%, it doesn't mean that 20% of the population carry it. It means every individual man has 20% E1B1A. He'll have E1B1A or E1B1B, and then he'll have the J1. He'll have the E1B1B or the E1E1A, then have the J2 marker. He'll have the E1B1A or the E1B1B, and then have the J2 marker. You see, which means that the parent haplogroup is the E1B or the EB3 or any of those markers. You see right here, this is the EM2115J marker. Okay, it's also known as the EM215, EM215, also known as the E1B1B, and formerly the EB3. I just told y'all that. It is a major human chromosome DNA haplogroup. It is a division of a microhaplogroup, the EM96, which is defined by the single nucleotide polymorphism, mutation, the 215, the M215. It's the snap. Okay, snap is a break off. In other words, it is one of the major patrilineal. Remember, I told you that this is a patrilineal stalk right here. It is one of the major patrilineal patronages of humanity. I won the debate automatically, right there. That was the debate. Linking from father to son back to common male ancestors, the Y chromosome atom, and it is a subject of discussion and study in genetics and a well genealogy, archaeology, and as well genetics, genealogy, and archaeology, and historical linguistics. I want to scroll down here and just look at some of this information here. Let's talk about the EM215 haplogroup have two ancient branches that contain all of the known modern EM215, EM35, and the EM281 subclades. Of the latter two EM215 subhaplogroups, the only branch that has conformed in a native population outside of Ethiopia is the EM35. EM35 in turn has two known branches, the EV68 and the EZ827, which contains by far the majority of all modern M215 subclade barriers. The E/M257 and the E/V68 subclads each, respectively, their highest frequencies in North Africa and the Horn of Africa, and also lower percentages in parts of the Middle East and Europe, and isolated populations in southern Africa. I'm going to slide all down through here. Just let y'all focus on some of the most important things right here. We're talking about, according to Lazaridis et al., that's its source, where you can find it at. Okay, I'm going to hurry up because my phone is about to drain. 216. The Natufian skeletal remains from the ancient Levant, which is Israel, Syria, and Babylon, predominantly carry the Y DNA haplogroup, the E1B1B. Of the 5 Natufian specimens analyzed for paternal lineages, 3 belong to the E1B1B1B12. You see how all of this stuff stretches out here? All these different subclades, how the E1B1 just breaks all the way down. Look at this. Haplogroup E1B1B was also found in moderate frequencies amongst fossils from the ensuing pre-pottery Neolithic bee culture, with the E1B1B1 and E1B1B1B2 subclades observed in 2 of 7 PPNB specimens. Okay? The scientists suggested that the Levantine early farmers may have spread southward into East Africa, bringing along Western Eurasian and Basal Eurasian ancestral components, separate from that which would arrive later in North Africa. Additional haplogroup E1B1B1 has been found in ancient Egyptian mummies, excavated at Abu Sir el Malek archaeological site in the Middle East, Middle Egypt, which dates from the period between the late New Kingdom and the Roman era. Fossils at Ibero-Mauritian site at Ifri Amir or Mausa in Morocco, which have been dated to around 5000 BC, also carry haplotypes related to the E1B, 1B, 1B, 1A, EM81 subclade. These ancient individuals bore a autonomous Maghribi genomic component that peaks amongst the modern North Africans, indicating that there were ancestral to populations in the area. The E1B1B haplogroup has likewise been observed in ancient Gauche fossils excavated in Gran Canaria and in Tenerife on the Canary Islands, which has been radiocarbon dated to be between the 7th and 11th centuries CE. The clade-bearing individuals that were analyzed for the paternal DNA were inhumed at the Tenerife sites, and all of these specimens found to belong to this E1, B1, 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 A1, or EM183 subclade. I'm going to say this one more part. You see where it's right here talking about bearing parent lineage. And what I mean when I talk about is the parent stock, and I'm going to tell you why I say this. You see right here talk about how these genes is even in the coenzyme. Okay. Right here where it says the EM215 and the EM335, this is important, are quite common amongst Afro-Asiatic speakers. The linguistic group and carriers of the EM35 lineage have a high probability to have risen and dispersed together from the Afro-Asiatic Uramites amongst populations with an Afro-Asiatic speaking history. Peep this out. A significant portion of Jewish male lineages are EM35 haplogroup. EM35, which accounts for approximately 18 to 20% of the Ashkenazi and 8.6% to 30% of the Sephardi Y chromosomes, appear to be one of the major founding lineages of the Jewish population.
Having with his argumentation is, he said that it was 10,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago. But when I questioned him on dates, he said you can't use dates. Remember, Sanetta? He said you couldn't use dates. Now he's using dates. Now, if it's 10,000 years ago, because E1B1A goes all the way back to the Horn of Africa, not Mesopotamia. Abraham come out of Mesopotamia. This does not prove Jews, all right? It proves that we migrated out of the Horn of Africa, into the Congo, into South Africa, into North Africa. That's all that's talking about. So when you see the R1B, come into Africa, that was from the back to Africa migration from the Africans who came back after they mixed with those people from the Levante that came out of Mesopotamia. This doesn't make any sense. He's using dates. Now, if it's 10,000 years ago, because E1B1A goes all the way back to the Horn of Africa, not Mesopotamia. Abraham come out of Mesopotamia.
Now watch this contradiction.
When you see the R1B, come into Africa, that was from the back to Africa migration from the Africans who came back after they mixed with those people from the Levante that came out of Mesopotamia.
In classical logic, A contradiction consists of a logical incompatibility between two or more propositions. It occurs when the propositions, taken together, yield two conclusions which form the logical, usually opposite inversions of each other. Ill is a general tendency in applied logic. Aristotle's law of non-contradiction states that one cannot say of something that it is and that it is not in the same respect and at the same time. The reason contradictions don't work in classical logic is because they can be misused to prove an absurd conclusion, often through confirmation bias. By extension, outside of classical logic, one can speak of contradictions between actions when one presumes that their motives contradict each other.